Has anyone ever heard of the term apple polishing? That what it means? It means, yeah, so I haven't heard of the term. Apple polishing is something done particularly to a teacher. Now, it was a term from the 1920s. If you haven't heard that term, still everyone has heard of the tradition of giving an apple to a teacher. Various customs, various explanations have been proposed. Where does this custom come from? Now, it may have something to do with the apple harvest happening, in certain parts of the world around the time of the start of school. Some suggest that this custom of bringing an apple to a teacher goes back to the 16th through 18th century in Denmark and Sweden, when they would give to teachers baskets of apples to help actually compensate them for their low wages. Bing Crosby helped further the connection, singing a hit duet in 1939 called "The Apple for the Teacher." Anyone know that? No.
Yes, I do.
You missed that. So whatever its origin, and given apple's associations with the tree of knowledge, it is a sweet way of showing appreciation for a teacher. Well, as we come to the end of a school year, I want to take a moment to express gratitude for all those who teach our children. My mom was a high school teacher, so I feel a special obligation to say thank you to our teachers. For teachers, as we all know, it has been, as for so many, a difficult year with the effect of the ongoing pandemic, an increase in school violence, including deadly shootings. So really, an apple is hardly enough, and of course, even words alone are not enough. Here at Bethel, we are building on the work that Rabbi Levitsky engaged in, working to ensure that we compensate our teachers in a way that expresses how we value them in our all preschool. Now, there's an interesting connection between apples and Torah. On Simchas Torah, before Hershey bars were handed out at Bethel and during Hakafot, there was a tradition in the Middle Ages to eat apples, or hand out apples, and they're not familiar with this on Simchas Torah. There's also an interesting midrash comparing the Jewish people on Sinai to an apple tree. That's a separate sermon. So instead today, as we celebrate the giving of Torah, I want to share a short story about appreciating our teachers, not with apples, but with words of encouragement. It's a tale about the Baal Shem Tov, Israel ben Eliezer, known as the Besht. And I chose this story because today is his yard site interview, and because he was from Ukraine, he's from Western Ukraine. The Besht was born in 1698, and he died in 1760 in Bezvech, where he's buried today. He's considered the founder of Chassidut. Tales of the Best are legendary, and often they might be fanciful or elaborate. This one is utterly and perhaps deceptively simple. On Friday, at the hour when the tzaddik examined his soul, the whole world grew dark for the Besht, and the spark of life almost died within him. This is how one of his disciples found him. "My master, my teacher, Mori Rabbi," he said. His voice trembled, and he could not utter another word. But even so, he had caused a new strength to flow into the Besht heart, and the flame of life grew strong within him. The whole story, I'm going to actually say it one more time. And I want you to think, what was it that actually caused this flow of life, this flame, to reignite within the Besht? So on Friday, at the hour that the tzaddik examines his soul, the whole world grew dark for the Besht, and the spark of life almost died within him. This was how one of his great disciples found him. "Mori Rabbi, my master, my teacher," he said. His voice trembled. He could not utter another word. But even so, he had caused new strength to flow into the Besht heart, and a flame of light and strong. Again, it's more pleasant to provide that. Yeah, Don.
Just someone calling him my teacher.
Why is that? Why did
It's
that?
an acknowledgement that the man who listed was saying that Baal Shem Tov is his teacher, and that is enough to fulfill or to bring back to life the spirit of the teacher.
There.
He has purpose.
He gave him a sense of purpose to remember or recall to be called his teacher. What else? Yeah, absolutely.
Well, there must have been a bond, a connection. Beyond his teacher, because of his teacher's interaction with authentic. But then morale has to do with life, hope, etc. So, that was bringing the life back to
So I think it's saying that there was a deep bond between causing my teacher, my master, Rabbi, and I play on words, he was a Moran, brought back to life.
It reminds me of what I was thinking when we're honoring Mary this last Shabbat, is that his work continues on through his disciples. And so it's not just up to him, but he knows that it's.
Word continues on, we're going to come back to that. What else kind of brought life? Yeah.
Well, and building on that, I don't remember the exact word, but you called him, the disciple was still a sage, a great sage.
Mm-hmm.
So, right, there's the recognition that, even maybe sometimes the student has become the teacher, right? I was reading into that of, this is still a great sage that comes and says, my teacher, you're still my teacher, and so that sense of purpose, that the fact that you can, carry, continue your teaching might help rejuvenate somebody.
Even though he's become a great disciple, he still sees himself as a student. Perhaps it didn't have anything to do with words, it was just his presence showing up to one who is in a very dark place, whose light is being extinguished. Perhaps it was that this was happening Erev Shabbat, just before they light candles, and so maybe it was that spark of Shabbos that lit the light within him. These words, Mori Rabbi, my master, my teacher, they're so simple, but perhaps it's these words, as Donna alluded to, that sparked that will to live once again in the Besht. Now, this is not the only example of Koach Hadibur, the power of speech. We read at the beginning of the book of Ruth these words that Mr. Abrams had us chant. So Naomi is distraught over the death of her two precious sons, and she feels a massive void that her daughters-in-law cannot fill. She really has no interest in their company and no ability to provide for them. She says, girls, you go your separate way. I'm too old. My lot is bitter, marred me, but the hand of the Lord is strong. But Ruth, as we know, refuses to go, saying, Amet Ami Bavahai Kalavai. Your people will be my people, your God will be my God. Wherever you go, I will go. With these words of love and of loyalty, Naomi agreed that Ruth could accompany her on life's journey, and that set about a transformation from bitterness to blessing. But as you surely know, Jewish tradition famously cautions us against speaking in Lashon Hara, against evil speech, but it's equally insistent that we speak Lashon HaTov, that we share words of love and compassion, words of comfort and kindness, words of encouragement and praise. Maimonides actually says that sharing such words is one way to fulfill the mitzvah of love your neighbor as yourself. So what are the words, verbal and nonverbal, that can encourage someone who's down, that can reignite the spark of life in one whose light is all but being extinguished? From the Besht story, we're taught that we don't have to be poets. Sometimes everyday words like my teacher are effective. Or we're taught, Words that come from the heart enter the heart. In his book, Words That Hurt, Words That Heal, Joseph Tulishin picks up on this notion, writing, when the desire to ease someone's pain is sufficiently deep, one can almost always find the words or deeds that will make a difference. Daily life calls for few dramatic gestures. What others need to know is that they are cared for, and that their good deeds inspire gratitude, and that others love them. It's that simple. And just because they hear such sentiments on Monday, Solzhenitsyn writes, doesn't mean that they don't need to hear them again on Tuesday. Solzhenitsyn goes on to recommend adopting 4 simple phrases to live by. Thank you. I love you. How are you? What do you need? Perhaps it's just that simple. And most of us recognize the healing potential of words. Unfortunately, sometimes we are stingy in offering them. The story is told that at the end of a funeral, the only 2 that remained at the cemetery were the rabbi and the grieving husband. After a while, the rabbi said to the man, okay, I guess it's time to go. The man replied, no, I can't leave. I love my wife. Another minute passed, and the rabbi said, the service is over, it's time to leave. To which the man responded, no, you don't understand. I love my wife. So another moment went by. This time the rabbi said, don't you think you've been here for a long time? It's time to go. The man responded, you don't get it. I love my wife. And once, I almost told her. Words are simple. They don't need to be deep, just heartfelt and frequent. On Shavuot, we give thanks. We give thanks to God for giving us Torah. Thanks to God for teaching us and guiding us with wisdom. And we give thanks for teachers who educated us, teachers who imparted to us knowledge and inspired us to learn. They believed in us and helped us to become the people that we are. As Yizkor approaches, we think about other teachers in our lives, not necessarily those who taught us in school classrooms, but who taught us informally by their example in the classrooms of life. For example, when we recite Yizkor for a parent, we say, may God remember Abi Mori, my father, my teacher. You can see that language in the Yizkor book itself. Reciting Yizkor may bring on a darkness, a feeling of bitterness as we sense the absence of those we love. That sorrow is, of course, very real. At the same time, the words of the disciple in the story of the Vesh, they offer a measure of comfort. Thinking that his Rebbe was dying, he called out, Rabbi Mori, more than just words of encouragement, they were words of promise. You will always be my master and my teacher. Even after you leave this world physically, you will continue to teach me, you will continue to inspire me. Your values and teachings and traditions will continue to guide me. Same is true with us. That we find and offer words of encouragement, of love and care to those who need them. May we continue to draw on the lessons taught to us by loved ones of generations past, that we might transform bitterness into blessing, as we sense by Yitzhak B'Torah Chaim, their lives bound up the bond of life. In the Lord.